what these issues are with pay and what it is that the members of the National Assembly earn. And I think that greater openness will lead to a situation where these excessive salaries are effectively cut, these excessive allowances and emoluments are dealt with and in a fashion that is fair to Nigerians and is sensitive to the plight of majority of our countrymen and women. Now, for those who ask why I am running from the FCT, there are two fundamental reasons why. The first one is that if we're talking about a new Nigeria, a Nigeria where you come from or what your religion is doesn't matter, if we're talking about a Nigeria where regardless of the circumstances of your birth, where regardless of the tribe that you come from, we're talking about a Nigeria where all we're interested in is the unity of the country and a new thinking as Nigerians first before whatever ethnic or tribal affiliations we have. I think Abuja symbolizes what that new Nigeria should be. From its conception through to how Abuja has developed, the aim had always been to create a federal capital that all of us would truly call our own. I think many of us know that Lagos failed in many regards because regardless of how attempts were made to make Lagos something that all of us would embrace, there was still the realization that Lagos was predominantly a Yoruba city. And Abuja is intended to be that unifying essence for Nigeria. So for those of us that are unapologetic nationalists, for those of us who believe in that one Nigeria, I think Abuja symbolizes everything that we hope for in terms of birthing that new Nigeria. Now, the second aspect to why Abuja is a place that I'm running from is a pragmatic one. I was born in Kaduna, so if you ask me where I'm from, the first thing I would have told you is that I'm from Kaduna. The fact of the matter, though, is that my parents are from Kogi State, so culturally, my roots are in Kogi State. And as we know, in today's Nigeria, unfortunately, what we say or where we say someone comes from has nothing to do with where they feel connected to, has nothing to do with where they were born, but has to do with where their parents come from. And my hope and my aspiration is to see a Nigeria emerge in the future where the place that you are born in, the place that you decide to work in, the place that you decide to live in, regardless of where that place is, whether the Igbo man or an Igbo person decides to go to Zamfara and call that his state and his home, or whether a Yoruba person decides to go to Ebonyi State and call that place his or her home, I think the Nigeria that I definitely aspire to is a Nigeria that would allow you to do precisely that. And I think while we've not gotten there yet, as a nation, Abuja at least provides us with a potential glimpse for where Nigeria will potentially be moving to. While we have not gotten there yet as a nation, I think Abuja definitely symbolizes that aspiration that we all have. And that explains why I have decided that my run for the Senate should actually be from Abuja, because of the deep symbolism that Abuja holds for all of us who look forward to the growing unity of Nigeria and Nigerians. It is tempting for many of us to believe that Abuja was a barren piece of land before it was made the federal capital. The reality is that that was not the case. Abuja was excised from about 4 different states: Kogi State, parts of Nasarawa, parts of South Kaduna State, and definitely parts of Niger State. And there were original inhabitants of Abuja. Some people choose to call them indigenes, but the indigenes that we're talking about are essentially the original inhabitants of the FCT. And they come from a variety of tribes. I think some of the more commonly known ones are the Bagi, the Bassa, and the Koro peoples. And as I said, there are definitely many more tribes than this. But these are the issues that I think prepare me for the office that I'm aspiring to, the FCT. Even though Abuja is supposed to be this unifying factor, the question of how we have treated the original inhabitants, the indigenes, I think they've not been fairly treated at all. So I'll give you 2 specific examples. The first one is that according to the Nigerian Constitution, every state must be represented in the FEC, the Federal Executive Council. So, if a president appoints ministers to the Federal Executive Council and Ebonyi State does not have a minister, that FEC is illegally constituted. If Kogi State does not have a minister represented in the FEC, that FEC is illegally constituted. The only Nigerians who may never ever have someone represent them in the Federal Executive Council are the original inhabitants of Abuja, because they are stateless. And therefore, while the rest of us love Abuja because of its unifying factor, we must also realize that the original inhabitants of this land are disadvantaged by the very things that make us proud to be Nigerians. So it is important for us to understand that. The second issue is the fact that the relocation of the original inhabitants to different places. So many of the places that we call Maitama and Wuse and Garki today were actually places, the centers of the Federal Capital Territory, were places where many of the indigenous communities were living, and many of them were relocated to the satellite towns. But the point of the matter is that the terms of that relocation have not been fair. The compensations that were promised have not been paid in full, and definitely many of those compensations, even when paid in full, are not fully reflective of the losses that many of the original inhabitants have had to go through. I mean, the issues are endless. On this campaign trail, I have been to villages, indigenous villages inhabited by the indigenes of the FCT, that you would not even imagine could exist only 20 kilometers from the capital of the country. I've seen villages without power. I've seen villages without pipe-borne water. I have seen villages in which the enrollment rates of children in schools is less than 15%. These are issues that are totally unacceptable, and these are things that we are definitely going to address if, by the grace of God, we get into the Senate. I also want the people of Nigeria, and definitely the FCT, to understand something. It's not the first time. One doesn't have to be an indigene to understand the plight and the pain of indigenes. We fought the Niger Delta struggle when we were in school, and we're definitely not, I'm not a bully. But the fight that Kentaruwa